All right. I think I forgot to give a trigger warning before that one, but thank you, Eric Quest. We were supposed to do questions here, but actually it will be much more efficient if the speakers will just mingle with everybody else over in that side at the breaks. And just as an advice, I've been with Eric Quest for a while, so 3 different sentences that will get him going. You can start with Apple. That gets him going pretty fast. Hyper casual, always a good one. And this is a insider tip: Ubisoft. So those are the 3 words to use, and he will be ranting pretty hard. Now he mentioned that I do kumbaya a lot, so that's a good one. Let's kumbaya a little bit, and I ask you one thing. So only one small thing. If you're posting about this on social media, whether LinkedIn or Twitter, or whatever is your channel, if you can use hashtag Istanbulish, that would be great. So let's have that as a kumbaya hashtag. Just came out with that. So anyway, Sophie, what do you think about the talk?
A great starter. Thanks, Eric. Well, what I remember, Eric is not you. So this is a good reminder. But no, although it started a bit dark, like the picture of the market, I think here again it's a great opportunity for new businesses to approach with a given context, different distribution channels, even like how we approach games, mechanics, accessibility, and again how to market games, but reaching the mass instead of like making niche games. So
yeah. Well, on that note, so again, Eric was talking a lot about the pivotal moment that we have in the mobile games industry and the opportunities that will follow. So the next speaker is, I need to look at the name. It's a very beautiful name. Alpagut Çilingir from Google, Director of Retail and Apps and Gaming, and he'll be talking about how to pivot successfully, how to view market in a much more positive sense. So Alpagut, please.
Thank you. Merhaba, hoş geldiniz. So as the first Turkish speaker, I'd like to take this opportunity to give out 3 thanks. So my first thanks will be to all of you. I mean, the last time I checked, we have people from over 50 countries who've actually traveled here or might be watching us online. So thank you for taking the time, and I hope that you're going to find this worthwhile for your time, and you'll all be back here next year. My second thank you is to the broader international community. I mean, I think as a person who's living in Turkey, the past couple of weeks have definitely not been easy at the wake of this earthquake. But it was also wonderful to see the international community come together to offer aid, whether it be financial, humanitarian, and actual people on the ground doing rescues. And I think that is a true sense of what we can all accomplish as a global nation if we all do come together. So please keep that help coming, because the rebuilding and recuperating is going to take a lot of time. And obviously my third thank you will be to the Constructor of Fun team. They've said some wonderful words about Google, but none of this would have been possible without their help, dedication, and contribution. So thank you for that. Now with that, I'll just So when I was kind of contemplating about gaming, how things have changed, and given the recency of what's happened over the, say, last kind of 9 months, I reflected a bit on my own experience. So I started gaming in 1983, right? The first PC I had was an IBM 3036, and I started with games like Froggers and Diggers, and on a black and green screen, and I thought, oh my God, what a wonderful world. What else can you expect? And then towards the 90s, we started getting games like the Oregon Trail, Wolfenstein 3D, and the world was changing. So all those wonderful things that I thought would, that nothing could have actually beaten, suddenly were replaced by, color, sound, 3D graphics, what we thought was AI at the time with Oregon, with different scenarios playing out. And then you fast forward another 20 years, and then you've got, mobile and PC and console, and everything is again changing. So my question is, what comes next, right? Nothing lasts forever for sure, and we may find ourselves in dire times and think that the world is over, but that has never been the case. And I'm hopefully going to, by the end of the presentation, show you what we think could be 3 ways of getting out of this and what is actually going to be differentiating the winners from the losers. Now, I know that it's tough to come after Eric, right? So I hope I won't disappoint you and not repeat what he's kind of just gone through. So, yes, gaming is changing, and you all know this, right? For the first time, we've actually saw an overall decline in the revenue. And that revenue actually hit mobile the most, right? So PC was flattish, but overall the revenues are declining. But why, right? So what happened? Why are we declining? Well, this is the perfect storm. So suddenly a couple of factors kicked in all in at once. They've been catalysts to each other, and they've kind of exacerbated this decline. So one of them was obviously post-COVID, right? Everybody was at home. We had a lot of time on our hands. We were working from home, but a lot of people were doing a lot of things on multiple screens. We had a lot of time. But then suddenly the world opened back up. We realized that we missed all of those outdoor activities. 2, media consumption and the screen time competition intensified. So it's not only competition from gaming, right, but also other categories or other industries started eating the lunch. Number 3 was economy, right? With the recession, with inflation rates going up, with the war in Ukraine hitting household incomes as well, whether it be from kind of gas prices, etc. See, I have such a great presentation that I have a small guest as well. See, anyway, and that also put a pressure on the pockets of people. Then, Eric delved deep into this. I won't go into the details, but there was a huge shift into privacy, which changed the dynamics of UA, and the last one is obviously geopolitics. So let's go a bit more deeper into this. So screen time. So what's happening to screen time? How are we spending our time? As you can see, actually people have not moved away from their phones, right? Screen time is increasing. The problem is other categories are actually growing faster than gaming, right? So we're spending more time on social, right? We're spending more time with music. Gaming is flat, so that's why we're losing share. And if you look at how revenues are actually progressing, right, whether it be video on demand or dating, right, so there are pockets of the industry that are actually growing. Now, what this means is the share that gaming is actually getting from the pie has been continuously shrinking, and that is probably going to continue. Right? So that is not a changing factor. And the worrying part is, if you look at it via inflation, right, as inflation goes up, right, the share of gaming continues to decline. Now, you can say, oh, you know what, this is because all those other things, categories that you just showed, Alpagut, they've been growing so fast. But no, if you look at the absolutes on what's happening to gaming revenue, right, it's declining across the world. Right? So it's not that other players are kicking in and other categories are coming in and that they're actually going after the screen time and the dollars in our pockets. It's also that gaming is not growing. Privacy, Eric put this more eloquently than I could ever do, but that was also a tectonic shift in the market, with actually now share having to move away from the iOS in terms of downloads to Android. As a result, what happened? The amount of money that we can actually get, right, from a user, right, has been on a steady decline across the world. Right? So this is not only a US data, this is not about APAC. If you look at it across the world, how much money or the average revenue that we can actually generate from a monthly user has been on the decline. So costs are going up, screen time is flattish, but people are shifting their revenue to other places, and our revenue is on a shrink, which basically means that our P&L is under a lot of pressure. Oh my God, are we doomed? Well, not yet, because we're actually seeing small pockets of glimpse that gaming is still very top of mind and key, and that is around subscription services. So there is definitely interest, right? These don't have to be big things, but people are still looking for alternative ways to enjoy their games. However, launching a new game, right, and making out of that new game is becoming more and more difficult, right? So if you're a studio, and if you're saying, you know what, I've got this great idea, I'm going to launch a game, the likelihood that you're actually going to land on the top 100 list is becoming more and more difficult, and the revenue that you can extract is also becoming more difficult. So what this means is you need to be super smart. The time that, I've got an idea, I've got money, let me just put out a game and let's see what sticks, is not going to fly anymore. You need to be more creative, and you need to look at different alternatives. But it's not all doom and gloom, right? There is hope, and hopefully now that's what I'm going to talk about. So why should we be super excited about the future despite what's happening right now? So one, right, we're getting more people coming into gaming. So the number of gamers are actually going up, which is great. So the minute in any industry, if you've got more people, more customers, more users coming into an industry, that means that there's a lot of excitement, and that bodes well both for developers as well as for investors. Two, these people are actually also downloading more, right? So they're willing to try, they're willing to look out for new things. They're willing to download. So if you've got a great idea, if you've got a smart business model behind it, the likelihood that you can actually succeed is still there. And three, this for me is one of the best longer-term indicators is if you compare the number of people who play games versus the number of people who actually have a mobile phone or a smartphone, right? There is still so much opportunity, right? We still haven't tapped. So even if we don't sell new smartphones, but if we can actually get everybody who has a smartphone onto gaming, we can still grow by 50% minimum, right? Given everything else. And this is a huge opportunity. And even in a market like the US, right, that's still at 65%. So yes, there is room. And even in Europe, I mean, it's only half of the people who have got a game. But, so, great, that's good. We might be going through a dark time, there is hope, but what should we be doing? Well, three things. One, don't be stuck on a single genre. You can do this at a studio level, you could do this at the investment level, but you need diversification. Number two, it's all about IP. And number three is about you need to, again, diversify your revenue model. So all in all, this is all about diversification. Let's dig deeper. So yes, there's been a decline, but even within that decline, right, what we're seeing is not everything is being impacted the same way. So, which means that users are shifting their attention, different genres are coming up. You need to be super smart on being able to capture, right, what's next. You need to have your pulse on the user, on the data, right? We're more than happy to partner with all of you as Google, but you need to understand what's next out there to be able to capture this. And what we're also seeing is it's usually, one or two pioneers that are actually driving these categories, and then others are jumping suit. So if you're either number one or a very fast follower, there is opportunity to grow. And the same is, true for core mobile games as well, right? It's not only about casual games. So there are pockets of success, which means, again, let's not put everything out there. It's not about, seeing what's stuck. It's about being very thoughtful about what we need to do. So that's the genre part. The second part, which is very close to heart for me, is building a brand, right? So we've seen, if you look at your lives, right, most of the things that we consume is around brands. And gaming will eventually need to get there. And we've already seen some really, really successful games that are actually being able to do this. So it's about building a brand, building an IP, and making that IP bigger than games, right? So that it helps you. These are my favorite two. I'm also quite, I play these a lot as well, especially League. So, and I found it extremely exciting that, they could actually partner with LVMH, right? With Louis Vuitton. Who would have thought that a gaming brand would actually be partnering with, one of the higher-end luxury brands, right? What they did with Arcane on Netflix, oh my God, it was mind-blowing, right? It was not only engaging, to watch as a Netflix kind of anime, but it was also about how it helped League gain a lot of new users, without necessarily having to pay anything for them. And there's also other ways of building a brand. So one of them is what we're seeing as Google is around search, right? So what we're now understanding is every gamer almost, right, does search before they do a download, right? So they're interested. It's not only about going and typing a brand name, it's about understanding genres. So you need to be where the user is. You know, this could be search, this could be video, this could be, I don't know, YouTube, but you need to be there. And for instance, what Ms. Cortez was able to do with Twitch is it actually broke Twitch, right? And then there were millions of hours of viewership on YouTube as well for the replay. So basically, if you have a game, if you can, you know, find a relevant celebrity, that's also a way of building branding. But why should you care, right? So that's all good. Building a brand is nice. It's also expensive, but why should you care, you know? Is this a nice-to-have or is this a must-have? I believe that you should all care precisely for the point that it lowers your UA cost, right? User acquisition costs actually end up going down the stronger your brand. Because that means that you don't necessarily have to rely on paid channels, right? But you can actually bet on people, on users, on gamers who love your brand, who love your franchise, right? Who are willing to actually take the risk and look for the next best thing. But be mindful. While doing this, there is a caveat, right? If you're building a brand, if you're building an IP, you need to be true to yourselves. It doesn't mean that, oh, I've got this great idea, right? I've got this great brand, people love it, let me just slap it on everything. No. If you can find a game, right, that mimics your brand characteristics, this is where magic happens. And just, you know, one example of this is Star Wars, right? So let me just get out of the way. If you see that what they've been super good at doing is they had a franchise, right, the Star Wars franchise, and they were able to come up with a game where the audience basically mimicked that franchise. And this game was a hit. But if you've got a great franchise, right, but the game that you build doesn't necessarily mimic that franchise, right, then success is not, doesn't come by itself. Therefore, if you do end up building an IP, please, please, please keep in mind that you need to be true to it. And the last part is about, you know, how do we build revenue diversification? How do we get more money out of this? So what we're seeing is actually, I mean, a lot of the things that we do is around either apps or either in-app purchases or advertising, right? And it's usually swayed to one or the other. What we're actually proposing is this needs to be more balanced, right? So you need to find those different revenue models, and you need to be able to monetize them simultaneously in order to make the most of this. Oh, but you know what? My gamers, they don't like advertising. They don't want to watch this. Well, no, because if you do ask them, they're saying that I am okay completing the video. I am okay watching it. However, again, you need to make it a part of the game. You need to integrate it. And I think what we're seeing there, I mean, for the different genres is, if it becomes an intrinsic part of the game, right? So if, you know, if I'm playing NFL and if it's kind of a branding on my shirt, that's very natural, right? Because that's also what I watch on TV when I'm watching Sunday movie football night. Or, you know, if I'm driving a car and if I see a billboard, that's good. But then if you're intruding my gameplay with a video and say, watch this, I'm probably going to say, no, because this isn't natural. So there is hope for in-game advertising. You need to have a much more balanced portfolio. However, again, be true to your game. So with that, before I sum up, I just wanted to leave you with this. Nothing lasts forever, right? Growth doesn't last forever, but neither does decline. So we will get out of this recession, and things will come up with rainbows and sunshine, and everything is going to be good. Whichever forecast you look at, there may be, you know, a 6-month here and there difference, but things are looking positive. Those who actually take action today right, will be the ones who are actually going to be benefiting from this the most in the near future. And from what we've seen and what we've looked at is you need to do ideally 3 things together, but if not, just pick one and go with it, is build a brand, invest in your brand, invest in yourselves, invest in your companies. Look for a new business model that's going to work for you in light of the privacy changes that are here to stick and probably even escalate, right? So 2 years from now, the privacy scene is, if anything, going to get tougher, right? So be prepared for that. And 3, look into diversification. Subgenres, revenue models, games, but be mindful, don't be stuck on one thing. If you do one of these 3 things, it is going to lead to a much better future. And with that, I'd like to thank you all again and hope to see you here again next year. Thank you.